Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Sean Pinnock on. Today's the CEO of Avalon, client of mine, great guy. Absolutely wanted him on the pod to discuss his background, discuss video games, discuss the growth of Avalon. So, Sean, welcome to the pod. Tell us a bit more about yourself and what you've been up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Charo. So I'm CEO here at Avalon. Before Avalon, I was a serial entrepreneur, built a number of companies, primarily in the game space, but had a dream of doing something really big, something game-changing in the EA space, and that brings me to Avalon, where we're making it really easy for anyone to create their own games, their own content, their own experiences using natural language.
And why is Avalon the big home run? You've tried many startups before. You had some success. You had some failures. Why is Avalon the one?
Um, the most valuable games company in the world today is Roblox, and we know it's the most valuable company in the world because they've lowered the bar of accessibility for anybody to create games, and then over time, as a platform, they've expanded into a multi-billion-dollar franchise where everyone's coming in, they're creating experiences, and they're playing each other's experiences. The problem with Roblox today is that while it does an excellent job solving its problem for its users, it caters to a very niche market of mostly children. Avalon is attempting to do the same thing, but for a more mature audience and with a more mature tool set using AI to essentially revolutionize or evolutionize what Roblox did before. So we believe it can essentially be the next Roblox.
There you go. And before that one, I believe the company was Cyberdream. Can you tell us a bit more about that one? Also, why did you make the transition from programmer and technical designer to actually being a founder?
Well, I always wanted to be a founder. I knew I always wanted to build my own companies. And even now as a founder, I'm still a programmer. I'm still an engineer. I lead engineering across all of our efforts. All the things we build are very engineering heavy, but I really only got into engineering because it was a means to an end. It was a way for me to be able to build the things I actually wanted to build. And as I grew that skill set and I became more confident in that skill set, I learned that I could take those set of skills to build my own businesses.
I think you recommended me the Blizzard book, or someone did at least. I'm currently listening to that audiobook right now, like how Blizzard has risen and how they fell as of late. If we can even say that they fell, because I think Blizzard's still a great company. You worked at EA. What did you learn from these companies, EA specifically? And also, what's your take on Blizzard?
Yeah, I mean, Blizzard's a great example. You're probably more recently knowledgeable than I am, but I know Mike Morhaime. I've actually talked to him about Avalon a few times. Mike Morhaime is one of the CEO founders of the Blizzard franchises, so you know. And they created what I would consider to be one of the greatest companies of all time in the games industry. Now, it was also one of the, I think, largest tech acquisitions ever. Although it might not be true anymore with AI, but it was at the time one of the largest private acquisitions ever, $69 billion. So obviously they did something right there. Now, Mike Morhaime left the company, which I think you see a lot with game studios, is that you get the founding team that leaves the company, and the initial integrity and vision tends to shift. And I'd argue that's a big part of the reason why they're, I would say, not really a skeleton of the company they were before. And EA, EA was a well-oiled machine when I worked there. I worked on the Madden franchise. That game alone brings in over, I think, $1 billion, maybe $2 billion in revenue a year. In that building I was in, they also worked on FIFA, they worked on NBA, they worked on another number of games. And that building, I think we had 800 employees in that building. They printed money, and they worked like clockwork. And I learned a lot about how to ship things, how to get things done on time, how to work with production. But I also learned that I didn't want to be a cog in a big machine. So,
what about Ubisoft from my native Montreal?
So I never worked at Ubisoft, but a big part of what's made Ubisoft successful historically is they lean into new technology, and that's worked really well for them. I'd say up until recently, I don't think it's worked out as well, but historically they've leaned into new technology that other developers were afraid to lean into. When they've done that, and they've done a number of bets in a number of places, and they've won really big. Obviously, also the Assassin's Creed franchise, when it dropped, I think it changed the game for Ubisoft. And they've milked that thing, I think, about as much as you can milk a franchise. But that seems to not be working quite as well anymore. So,
right. What's the future of video games? Because it seems Blizzard, there was like the World of Warcraft moment, which was like subscriptions, and there was buying items inside games, which I think Activision is still surfing on. It's such companies, right? Is it having full control over what you build? Is it giving the powers to users to actually build? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So I mean, right now, there's the narrative of what's coming, and there's the what we're seeing work today. Um, platforms like Steam, platforms like Roblox, platforms like UEFN have essentially eaten the games industry. They soak up. I think just Roblox and UEFN alone is like almost half the games industry. You throw in Steam, and it's 70% of the games industry. And so we're seeing these platform plays change the game. But I would argue that there's something's coming, and a lot of game developers are, I would say, reluctant to admit this, but AI is going to just change the way games are made, the way games are played. When you take a platform like Roblox and then you give everyone on that platform the ability to create high quality games nearly instantly, the whole industry is going to shift pretty dramatically. And I think a lot of publishers are seeing this. We've had the most layoffs this year in the games industry there's ever been. It's been a terrible year if you're a game developer. I think something like 30% of the industry has been laid off this year, which is normally it's been a growing industry every year for the last 2.5 decades. But this year was the worst year ever for the game industry. And I don't know if it's going to recover because all these AI tools that are coming out that are essentially going to replace people's jobs.
Yeah, what's your take on that? Is the future like Ready Player One, in which everyone's watching like AI porn and just like fully stuck in that world, while us entrepreneurs keep on building and feeding these people?
I don't know. It's this is sort of a deeper philosophical question. I think AI is both a beautiful and terrifying prospect. I say this to somebody that's really interested in AI in a number of verticals beyond games, but specifically entrenched in games currently. As humans, like why do we get up in the morning? Why do we do a thing? Right now we all have a sense of purpose through the work that we do. But what happens when the work that we do no longer actually adds value to society, right? And that's going to be the case for, I would say, a lot of people over the next decade. It's slowly starting to happen now, and I think it's going to be a lot more prevalent in a decade from now. And then what do people do with their time, right? Are we jacked into the metaverse, hanging out in trailer parks? I certainly hope not. I think we can create a better future than that, but I think it's going to have to be deliberate. I think if we let ourselves go astray, it could end up looking something like that. I think we have to be deliberate and be coordinated and be effective, or the future could be not ideal, somewhat dystopian.
Well, what's your relationship with video games? Because me, it's been on and off. I on the Switch for some time. I sold it because I found it was just not productive. Then this year I bought a PS5. My excuse was sim racing, right? Because I want to be a race car driver as well. But then I bought Call of Duty, of course, and Diablo, and find myself like playing almost daily. And I'm like yesterday I didn't play and was proud of myself because it's so addictive. But it's also my other excuse is to let the steam off, right? Like as a
Right.
founder, if I had a hard day, just like 15 minutes in which I can relax. So how do you use video games nowadays? What's your relationship with them?
Yeah. So when I decided that I wanted to make video games, I was 19 years old, and the games industry was not like it is today. Today, I would say there's an over surplus of content. It's like what do you like? You can pull out your phone and you can literally do anything, or you can keep yourself entertained, glued to your phone or glued to a computer for weeks. But when I started in the games industry, I just really had a single mission. It was, hey, I want to make people happy. This world's really messed up. There's a lot of bad stuff going on, and I feel like video games is my way to do that. And as I've matured a little bit, sort of the blinds have been taken off a little bit because there's a lot of games that are being made that are, I would call, really extractive, right? They're not necessarily adding people's lives, and I don't want to create that kind of experience. It's just sort of against why I started doing this in the first place. So my personal relationship with games has sort of shifted over the years. I still am in this. I still want to make Avalon because I want to make people happy, and I want to make other people make their own games to make other people happy. But I'm also very aware of sort of the downsides and the negatives of not just games, but media in general. So for me personally, I play a little bit of games. I would say a few days a week just to unwind. I have 3 kids. I play some games with my daughters just for fun. But I think it's still a great way to unwind, get a little bit of headspace, clear my head. but I have to be physical too. Just playing video games is great, but some people that's all they do to unwind. And I think it's really important you get up, you move, you go to the gym, you do something else because you need that blood moving.
You mentioned this masterpiece of a video game that I heard about, I think yesterday as well, like the Paris developers. I forgot the name of the game, but is that one good example of a game that stimulates creativity and actually creates neurons and values while you play?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue. So you're talking about Clair Obscur Expedition
Yeah.
33. I would argue that is the case in that game. I mean, that's the kind of game I would play it, and I would leave with it imaginative and creative and inspired and ready to do something new, right? And that's really, I really fell in love with games when I played the Final Fantasy franchise as a kid, and I left those games thinking like, holy crap, there's like dragons and there's spacecraft and like there's these magical spells and summoning people from other world. Like you leave something like that inspired. And as an entrepreneur, you start coming up with all kinds of cool ideas, things you can do, ways you can change the world, ways you want to treat people. And those are the kind of games that I like to see more people make. But they're somewhat rare too. Those are hard, special beats to build.
I'm talking about kids. About to have my daughter in a couple of weeks from now. Minecraft. You believe it's beneficial for kids? You believe generally that video games can be beneficial for kids?
I think they can be in the correct doses. I'm obviously very biased. I grew up playing video games, but I think they can be in the correct doses. I think Minecraft, you have to be careful with the online platforms, Roblox, Minecraft, all those platforms. But I would argue those platforms have the ability to really be a majorly creative outlet. If you look at a lot of the social experiments I've done with Minecraft, people are essentially simulating what it's like to live in a society. There's some great that actually I would really recommend folks watch one of the Minecraft civilization videos. Go on YouTube and people like simulate growing up in a society, and it's kind of eerie. It's sort of reminiscent of what actually happens in reality. You also get lots of videos of people creating amazing things, expressing their creativity. You get the same thing in Roblox. So I think there's something there, but I think it's all in moderation, right? I wouldn't want my kids playing, 6 hours a day and neglecting everything else in their life, right?
Right. Do you think us founders can gamify our business to the point that it feels like a video game? You must have done something around that.
Yeah, I mean, why do you come back to video games? Well, it's because it feeds certain parts of your brain. It's like dopamine, right? It's makes you feel good in a certain way, and I think there's absolutely something to be learned there, no matter what kind of business you're building, right? If you're building a SaaS platform, if you're building a medical company, I mean, you want your users to be engaged, to be entertained, to have fun. In fact, my previous company, Cyberdream, a lot of the work that we did was in simulation and training and gamification. So we used to take applications that normally you wouldn't play for fun, something like hey, you need to learn how to give this person CPR to train them for the Army. That's one of the things we built, and we had to gamify that because we wanted it to be fun, we wanted it to be accessible. And so a lot of businesses, I think, should look into gamification for the technologies they're building.
I think I saw a Whoop ban on you. Is that a good example of gamifying?
That's a great example. Duolingo,
Yeah.
Right? Whoop. I mean, this is, they've taken data and they gamified it. It's a lot of fun. I check it every day. It keeps me going to sleep better.
What's your biological age?
It's about my age, which it was much worse when I first started the Whoop. It was about 7 years older, and I got it down to my age.
Oh shit!
Yeah, when you're inside coding all day long for 8 years, it wrecks your body. So
I think I have 6 years younger, but I'm a biohacker. I take these things seriously, not as much as Brian Johnson, but
that's awesome.
Certainly one of my obsession, and I'm certainly gonna lose a couple of years this year with a baby coming. What does your day-to-day looks like, and how did you get from 7 years older to your actual age?
So I've been building companies for the last 15 years, and I spent, I would say, 8 of those years just up all night writing code, doing business, right, every night. And I was fairly successful, but it cost me. And I was a college wrestler. I was a high school athlete. Like I was very fit, but I really just went all in on being successful. But now I do red light therapy every day. I drink smoothies every day. I have a pretty strict diet. I go to sleep around the same couple hour window, although sometimes I still cheat a bit and I'll be up late working. So that's helped a lot. Work out every day, or at least every other day. But I'm actually quite into Brian Johnson. I'm quite into longevity, and so I'm not really doing a great job of it, although I've improved. I would like to focus more on it in the future and take it more seriously. Maybe get my numbers closer to where you're at.
And why do you think guys like us love Brian Johnson when most people hate him?
I mean, I don't. I feel like hating Brian Johnson is almost like self-loathing. Do you not love yourself? Do you not want to live a long time? Do you not want your family to live a long time? Like, I don't get it personally. I mean, so one of the things I'm actually really interested in, and I may take a swing at after Avalon, is longevity. I'm an excellent engineer. I'm excellent with AI. I think AI has a very novel use case for solving health. But who doesn't want their loved ones to pass away? Wouldn't you love to cure cancer? Wouldn't you love to? That's what Brian Johnson's all about. Brian Johnson's about, hey, like, how do we maximize our health span? How do we stay healthy as long as we can? And for entrepreneurs, that gives us more time to make a difference. Cool, I can be healthy longer, be fit longer. I can build more cool things. I mean, there's so many other businesses and things I'd like to do. One day, I'd love to, travel the stars, or, do a lot of other cool things, build a lot of other cool technologies. I want to see what the future's like.
Right. And I mean, we're both hyper focused on success. Maybe you are even more, which sounds odd because I'm hyper ambitious myself, but I don't stay up at night, certainly to code stuff. I sleep 8 to 9 hours a night. So I still value my longevity because I think that me just staying alive, and I'm like on the shoulder of OpenAI, for example. Well, how amazing was that, right? Like the ChatGPT moment, and I'm just benefiting from all of that. What was your logic when it came to like grinding at night, and do you also prioritize happiness? Have you always been like a happy dude while building what you're building?
I've mostly been pretty happy and pretty grounded, I would say, because of my wife, and I have a good circle of friends that I do spend some amount of time with, not much, but some amount of time with. But I would I've matured a lot, I would say, in my years as building. I would actually argue that, hey, staying up late and working your ass off doesn't actually pay more dividends than just a healthy night's sleep. Like, and when I work all night, which I do still, and I try not to do it, it's become like a bad habit over the years. My next day is wrecked. And so, like, cool, like I worked, 24 hours in the last 30, and now great, my next day is, I'm working 6 hours or 4 hours, right? Whereas you can be consistent, you can be top performing. I would argue that really, if the long game, good night's sleep every night, work out every day, just keep grinding out for years, take care of your body, and so that's where I'm pushing towards, and I've gotten much better at in the last decade. But I was really bad at that for a few years. And so, like, it's short-term gains, but long-term, I think it's just not the way to go. So.
Yeah, or just working at night, being a night owl and not doing like 24 hours, I guess the point, because I'm pretty sure you're still very productive at night. You must be like Extremely. Deploying a lot and coding a lot. Yeah. And just keep it as is, just not 24 hours.
Yeah, I would consider myself to be pre-AI, a 10x engineer. And I don't, it's, people don't like bragging, whatever. It just is what it is. I write a ton of code. And now post AI, because stuff I can put out is crazy. I'm doing so much work. I mean,
like Claude Code, I mean, the open claw moment was fucking crazy.
And that guy built that by himself with AI, by the way. And he never would have been able to do that pre-AI. There's no way. It's impossible. There's things way too complex.
So inspiring, right? Like of what you can actually do if you're very talented. I mean, this guy's a 15, 20 years overnight success, right? Which is also inspiring, but it's just crazy the message he sent. Like, fuck you, OpenAI. Fuck you, Anthropic. I can just do better agentic than you. Do better contextual memory. Here you go. But he got acqui-hired by OpenAI. That was pretty sad this week.
Good. Yeah, I mean, good for him. I mean, that's I think he got like 500 million or something, a huge payout.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know the number. I saw a LinkedIn post about it. It was a big number.
I guess I'm sure it was a lot of money. 500 million. But then I asked ChatGPT, which is probably not the best source, and it told me an acqui-hire of around 10 to 20 million in salary.
It had to been way more than that. There's too much. I mean, look, I don't know for sure. I'm guessing, but I think the value there is just too big. I would be very surprised if it was only 10 to 20 million. But anyway, I mean, the stuff you could create now with AI is crazy. I think, there's a lot of. I've worked as an engineer most of my career. I've worked with many hundreds of engineers, and I see a lot of engineers very resistant to the idea. And if I'm being honest, I think they feel threatened. I think they're scared because their identity is tied into being able to write code. And now you're getting people that are laymen
And they turn
able to
into
code,
hackers.
turn
Real
into hackers, and then guys like me that can just pump out so much code it'll make your eyes bleed because we're just leaning fully into the technology and are an engineer. I think they're feeling threatened and I think they're scared. And so they're creating all these reasons why this isn't going to be successful. And I don't think it's true. I think they should be afraid. They should be scared. I think programming landscape is going to shift dramatically over the next 5 years. There's going to be some bumps because it's not perfect. I can tell you I've spun up platforms projects that, write 100,000 lines of code in a couple of weeks, like on the side, and the whole thing comes crumbling down, right? You have to learn a lot. Now that I've learned a lot, I know how to use it properly. And the stuff we're doing in Avalon now with it is amazing. We're building so much cool tech so much faster than I ever could have before.
Right. How rare is it to have a guy like you that has business acumen and can code at the same time? And is that like the founder of the future, like just full stack and not even needing a co-founder? Or do you still need a co-founder in that case?
I mean, I've built my last company. I was a solo founder. It's hard. Solo founding is really hard. The biggest thing is you're kind of, you really need someone to like bounce. Like, hey, is this right? Is this the right direction? But it can be done. I don't really think it's the future. I think I'm sort of a rare bird. I do think that there's a ton of, like, my cousin, and you probably have followed this boat as well, is not, I would call him non-technical, and he's built a very successful company. He's done like 20 million a year in revenue in his most recent company. Had a company before that where he did 10 million a year in revenue, and he's all sales. Simpler products, right? Simpler ideas. Guys like me tend to be, we try to build crazier things, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it goes huge, right? You get guys, I would say like Elon Musk, that build multi-billion-dollar companies that are more engineering brained, and you can see the crazy things that can happen when it goes to go well. But you get a lot of guys that try and build something and it doesn't work, and try too heavy into the engineering. And I think you need the well-rounded skill set. I think as an entrepreneur, that's really been one of my biggest challenges. Is I tend to, as opposed to first building the the electric battery, I go, let's put a rocket on the moon, guys. Like, that's where my head goes and starts. And then I learned, okay, wait, in order to put a rocket on the moon, I probably need to solve these other like 8 things that are very profitable first. And that's been a big challenge for me, I think, as an entrepreneur. And so I think being realistic, being level-headed, being able to have that business acumen is very important in addition to technical skills.
Love that. Where can people find out more about you, Sean?
So LinkedIn, Sean Pinnock at LinkedIn, and on X at Sean Pinnock. If you want to look into the thing we're building, avalon.online. If you want to be a part of it, you want to learn some more, join our Discord. We're bringing in folks to our beta now.
There you go. So that was Sean and Charles.